Monday, 3rd August, 2026. 3 Asia-Pacific AI stories before your first coffee. Sacramento's Transparency Act took effect on 2nd August, requiring any generative AI system with more than 1 million monthly users, reachable from California, to embed latent provenance metadata in image, video, and audio outputs, ship a free detection tool, and revoke licenses within 96 hours of a violation. From 1st January 2027, the rules extend to any platform that makes model weights downloadable to California residents, pulling open source distributors into scope. The extraterritorial reach means Asian labs exporting foundation models, including teams in Seoul, Tokyo, Beijing, and Bangalore, now face a US state compliance layer regardless of where they are headquartered. Why it matters. Asia's largest model exporters, from Naver and Kakao to Alibaba Cloud and Stability AI Singapore operations, must now treat California content labeling as a shipping requirement, not a policy debate. Compliance teams that already adapted to China's visible and embedded labeling rules, enforced since September 2025, have a head start on the metadata pipeline. But California's 2027 weight distribution clause adds a new trigger that hits open weight releases directly. Builders distributing weights through Hugging Face mirrors or regional model hubs will need to gate downloads or embed provenance at the weight level, a technical requirement no jurisdiction has enforced before. Capital allocators should watch for a compliance cost wedge that favors large labs over lean startups, and for potential reciprocal labeling MOUs between Sacramento and Beijing as the two regimes converge on similar output marking standards. So, Tokyo's Kioxia posted April to June revenue of 1,767.1 billion yen, up 415.5% year-on-year, with a non-GAAP operating margin of 75% and net profit of 842.2 billion yen compared to 18.3 billion yen a year earlier. Average selling prices rose roughly 70% as AI infrastructure demand tightened NAND supply across the region. The 5 largest memory suppliers collectively generated more than $90 billion in free cash flow, according to Nikkei, yet Kioxia remains the most restrained of the group on capital spending, a posture that keeps NAND supply tight into 2027. Why it matters. The margin surge is not just a Kioxia story. It is a repricing event for every AI hardware buyer in Asia Pacific. Server OEMs, hyperscalers building out inference clusters, and sovereign cloud operators across Southeast Asia all face structurally higher memory costs as long as the top 5 suppliers hold capex discipline. Capital allocators should watch Kioxia's restraint closely. If the company continues to lag peers on new fab investment, NAND pricing power extends well beyond the current cycle, compressing margins downstream for AI infrastructure builders from Seoul to Singapore. The second-order effect worth tracking is whether tighter NAND supply accelerates the shift toward on-device inference architectures that use less memory per workload. Now, Seoul's Kospi dropped roughly 5.1% on Monday, dragging Samsung Electronics and SK hynix down close to 9% each, while Hong Kong and Indian benchmarks rose in the same session as capital rotated toward compute buyers such as Alibaba and Tencent. Hours later, Tokyo Electron posted record quarterly sales of 732.3 billion yen, up 43.3% year-on-year, and raised its full-year guidance above 3 trillion yen. Equipment order books and semiconductor equities are now telling opposite stories about the same AI build-out across Asia. Why it matters. Capital allocators watching Asia's AI hardware chain face a widening gap between what the order data says and what the equity market prices. Chip fabrication equipment demand, anchored by Tokyo Electron's record quarter, signals that hyperscalers and sovereign compute programs are still pulling capacity forward. Yet semiconductor stocks are selling off on macro fear, compounded by Brent crude falling roughly 3.6% after Washington signaled talks with Iran, which dragged energy and chip news lower again. Builders relying on foundry capacity should watch for their equipment backlogs translate into actual vehicle starts or get deferred if chip margins compress further. The second-order effect worth tracking. If this divergence persists, expect Asian sovereign wealth funds and policy banks to step in as buyers of discounted